So this is going to be a difficult one for me to do. I've tried to do this one a few different times, and it just never came out right. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it this time. But it's very very hard to talk about a past ex, particularly when it was a bad breakup, bad things happened, and you're still trying to get over it. It's very difficult to turn that into a lesson or learn something from it, at least from my perspective, because it's so convoluted, right? It's so complicated. It's interwoven with personal emotions and even hard feelings, So it's hard to turn it into something educational or something philosophical per se, without sounding kind of dumb. It's very difficult to do that. But I will, and I don't want to get off too much on personal as well. I've made that mistake in the past where I've spent too much time talking about personal details. So I'm not sure how much of that I'm going to get into. I'm going to try to make a long story short. Um, so to start off, obviously, uh, I became a mgtow over time, or I became hip to the mgtow philosophy over time. Now, I will say a couple things about that really quickly. Uh, One of them being that MGTOW now is viewed as something like, these guys are losers. They're hating women because they can't get women, things like that, which I don't think is true. I don't think MGTOW guys are hating women because they can't get women. I think maybe some of them are, and it might be a combination of that, but that's not the only reason. I think a lot of MGTOW guys actually have had success with women insofar as dating women and even marrying women, but then they've come into they've hit up against the negatives of being with women, right? Whether they got divorced or had to pay child support or got cheated on, whatever it may be. We all came to this, at least from the people that I've talked to. Most of us came to MGTOW because of our bad experiences with women, not because we couldn't get women. Okay, I dated off and on and slept with a lot of girls in my 20s. Okay, and I really full on became more in tune to the MGTOW philosophy in my early 30s, and it's only been a few years. I'd say 3 years tops, maybe 2.5, 3 years tops. I've been into the MGTOW philosophy because I've just said, you know what, fuck it. This is what's going on, because I've finally reached the apex of my hoping that I'll get married, hoping that I'll find a good girl, and I've just given up on it. And it's taken a lot of girls that I've had to go through to get to that point. So, for me being on social media, having my ear to the ground, so to speak, listening to what people are saying about MGTOW, there's two different schools of thought. I'd say three different schools of thought. The first school of thought is these kind of people who lean more a little to the left, people who are a little more liberal minded, and they're more feminist driven, man or female, whether it's the white knight guys or the actual feminists, and they believe MGTOW is a threat. They believe MGTOW is guys who are like hating women and guys who are a threat to women. And I believe that they think that because MGTOW tells a lot of truths. Now, all these three classifications and categories of guys or people out in the world who look at MGTOW, they shy away from talking about what MGTOW actually talks about. They don't address those issues. They probably don't even know. They don't pay attention, or they don't care, or they just stick to their opinion, which isn't true in most cases. So the first group of people are the people who think MGTOW is a threat to women, kind of like they're the same category of people who think PUA, P-U-A, pickup artists are a threat to women, because these two groups of people, MGTOW and PUA, they talk about real in-tuned information and knowledge and classifications and definitions of how women behave. And to some people, particularly the feminists, that's a threat. Okay, and we've been written up in vlogs or blogs, articles, um, books and papers, what have you, from people from the left who classify us along with PUA as threats to women in general. That's just a fact. So that's the first category. The second category of people out there who view MGTOW think that we're incels, which is an incel is an involuntary celibate, meaning somebody who can't get laid, so they become bitter and they hate women. Okay, and they do this out of prejudice. They do this because they haven't taken the time to study what we talk about, and they like to be mean. They're mean people, and they want to put somebody down and say, "Oh, MGTOWs, they're walking away from women. What a bunch of losers! They just can't get any, so they're mad. They're just bitter men who can't get laid." And this is what they say about us. All right. The third category of people are people who just don't know. They just don't know what MGTOW is. They're just sort of indifferent. They're sort of in the dark, and they're just ignorant. They don't know that what we talk about is real stuff from experience, and what we talk about is proven by tens of thousands of men all around the world. It's hard not to call MGTOW a movement, but our general philosophy, our group philosophy, if you will, is shared by men all across the world who have similar experiences. These are shared experiences. We don't come into MGTOW or even get turned on or tuned into MGTOW's philosophy out of nowhere. We don't just stumble across it, and it's not just objective knowledge. Most of us come into MGTOW and embrace the MGTOW philosophy because we share these similar experiences, because we read something or we saw something and we're like, oh yeah, that's true. Women are hypergamous. I got dumped by a girl who chose me for a better guy, or a guy, excuse me, when I say better guy, I got a richer guy, and she thought that he was better because he had more money. Okay, that happens all the time, right? So, and then, you got guys who are coming out of long-term marriages where the woman divorced him for no reason because she got bored, and she got half his stuff, half his house. Now he has to be put out. There's horror stories all the time, right? So these are really the shared experiences that we have, and people don't know that. They're just ignorant of that because I don't know why. They don't take the time to sit down and study what we talk about or take us seriously. And to many MGTOW men, that's okay. We don't care because we're walking away, and we know what we are. We know what we have to offer. We know what we talk about, and we believe in all that. But it is, ignorance is dangerous. It's dangerous to be ignorant, because then, if you're ignorant, if you're kind of in the dark about things, you can take a side and you can say, yeah, I think they are incels, or yeah, I think they are just bitter men who are a threat to women, right? So it's very difficult to or it's very dangerous not to study things. And so what I like to do is I like to be very, very informative. And this is something that I've talked about again and again and again, which is that I don't actually identify as a MGTOW. I don't actually consider myself a MGTOW. And it's not because I'm embarrassed what other people think. I actually stand up for MGTOW a lot on social media when I'm talking to people. And I'm not a super political person. I'm really actually a centrist. I don't get up there and argue for Republicans or liberals or any of that. Democrats or conservatives, neocons or progressives or libertarianism, none of that. I don't adhere to none of that. I'm a centrist, so that I believe some of it is good. I believe we shouldn't have huge government. So I don't really get too much into arguing politics because I don't really have a side to argue for. And so I sort of take this approach when it comes to MGTOW, is I don't really fully argue for MGTOW because that would imply that I'm MGTOW myself. What I do is I take an objective viewpoint, and I talk about from an objective viewpoint. I talk about how and why people become MGTOW and what MGTOWs actually believe. And I just do it in a way that I'm saying I'm being very confronting. I'm being very I'm not implying that I am a MGTOW. I'm just sort of giving truth. Well, these MGTOW guys, this is what they believe. These are their experiences, blah, blah, blah. And I get that information because I talk to MGTOW guys. I go and I watch their videos. I study how, what they're talking about and how valid it is. And I go and I look at statistics, divorce statistics, and I see these imbalanced double standards in society, right? So what I'm talking about on social media is not random. It's not emotion based. It's not vitriolic. I'm not coming on and saying, yeah, women are this. I'm saying, well, this is what mgtow believe, and this is why they believe it. These are their experiences, and these are the facts and statistics to back it up. We've got court systems that favor women. We've got women who are ruining men's lives because of this and this, and blah, blah, blah. And I just say these things, and people don't really argue with me that much because they really can't, because they probably haven't studied themselves. And I believe there's less feminists out there than there used to be. Like Milo Yiannopoulos said, women are abandoning feminism in big numbers. I believe it went from 28% acceptance to 18% acceptance, or it went to 18% acceptance to 8% acceptance. I'm not sure exactly those numbers, but it dropped about 10% in the last few years. Because people are seeing feminism for what it really is. The truth is coming out. They're seeing these crazy feminist behavior, and they're abandoning it. Okay, so I'm thankful for that. But we still have a long way to go insofar as really telling the truth about female nature, telling the truth about how society treats females. We're talking about gynocentrism. We're talking about hypergamy. Some of the two most important definitions within mgtow, which really describe how women behave. Obviously, the double standards, how easy it is for women to move in this society, yet continue to try to play victim and continue to get these social benefits that they didn't really earn. Of course, we can talk about what is it? Affirmative action, which isn't really fair in a competitive market. Affirmative action gives people a handicap, gives people an advantage over other people just because of their skin color, which is actually technically racist or sexist, however you want to look at it. Nobody should get an advantage over their skin color just because of an assumed disadvantage socially. Someone should get the job because they've earned it and because they beat out the other people who are applying for the job through skill and through qualifications, right? So affirmative action in its essence is racist and sexist. Okay, we could talk about that. But with all that said, as a precursor to what I'm going to talk about now, I want to talk about my ex, and I want to talk about why it's important to talk about your ex, or how it's important for me to talk about my ex. This is something that is very hard to do objectively because, of course, it's a subjective experience. But I believe that it's really related to our topics, and I want to try to tie it in. Okay, I want to try to tie it into the mgtow topics, which again, is something that I follow. I don't consider myself a mgtow, but I believe that a lot of what I talk about is technically classified as mgtow, and my experience is mgtow insofar as I've experienced a lot of the negatives that mgtow men have experienced, yet I haven't fully walked away. So the red pill philosophy has been linked to walking away, to waking up out of the matrix and leaving women fully behind and things like that. What I don't believe is, I don't believe it's all women. And I know guys are going to get on me for that. They're going to say, oh, it's, you're a narwhal, blah, blah, blah. I've met women out there who have a good head on their shoulders. Here's the problem, though. The problem is, even the women, excuse me, even the women who have a good head on their shoulders still benefit from the double standards that society gives women. They still benefit from gynocentrism. They still benefit from hypergamous dating and marriage and sex practices. And they don't realize it, okay? Which is, there's really nothing you can do. There are women who are in our groups, whether it's Honey Badger or Women Against, there's groups out there called Women Against Feminism. There are women who have taken the red pill, and yet they still benefit from these double standards, because how could they not? That's just what they are as a gender, right? So if society is treating a whole gender a certain way, it doesn't matter what you believe, you will benefit from that. And some people want to say, well, that's a good argument for affirmative action. Well, not really. Um, Instead of saying, oh, let's make things even so we can hire a certain amount of people and implement these kind of unjust laws so that we can have affirmative action and hire people of color or people of a certain gender, right? How about we just stop the favoritism, right? So it doesn't matter if you're white, Chinese, black, female, whatever. If you can do a good job, then it should be merit based and you get the job if you do a good job. So instead of saying, oh, well, this race is that, this race is that. No, if you do a good job. So you see what you see what I'm doing there? I'm taking away the fact that anybody's male or female. See, the whole female push, radical feminism, was supposed to be, well, at least originally it was for equality. Then it transmorphed into just being to defy men and being against men in the 60s and 70s, okay? And what that was like a turning point to really kind of attack and combat the patriarchy, right? So how about this? So how about instead of saying, oh, you're a man, I'm going to hire you, or at first, and then when affirmative action came in, oh, you're a woman, I'm going to hire you because you're a woman. How about saying, oh, I don't care what you are, whether you're a man, woman, black, white, whatever, Asian, whatever. If you can do this job well, then you're hired. So it goes from favoritism, whether it's any race or any color, to a merit-based reward system. And this is how we should have society in general. It shouldn't be, oh, I feel sorry for you because you're a woman, so I'm going to give you all these benefits. No, it's merit-based. Oh, you got a good character. Oh, you're a good person. I'm going to reward you for that. Okay, so now let me tie this into my ex. So this is how slowly I learned that this is what's going on. Is I learned at first I was like, oh, okay, well, and I'm going to go back in my life and I'm going to talk about supposed loves and things and girls that I almost dated or I wanted to date or I wanted to marry or whatever. And I'm going to tie it into what I'm talking about. So I've wanted love for a long time, but I've also been very sexual. So I'm kind of this, maybe like a lot of other guys, I want love, but I also want a lot of sex. And this is how I've been. So early on, I'm very aesthetic. I want girls who are good looking. And I learned early on that girls who are good looking are often promiscuous. So one of the first girls that I loved and the first girls that I dated in high school, she slept with a lot of my friends. And I didn't know that until later on. But during the time that she was quote unquote dating me, she had me in this little zone that she put me in, like kind of a friend zone, etc., where because I was too nice, because I wanted to date her and I wanted to actually love her, and I didn't realize that I should have been a jerk and I should have treated her like I was a bad boy, and then she would have had sex with me, but I didn't realize that. So I was thinking like, oh, I want to do the right thing. I want to love you. And I was young. I was like 16, 17. I want to love you and I want to, all these things. And she was attracted to me and she liked me and we dated, but I didn't realize that she had this other part of her, which is what most girls do. They put the nice guys in the friend zone. Sometimes they'll date you, okay? And then they'll go out and they'll sleep with assholes and they'll do a lot of creeping behind your back. And I didn't realize that. And I learned later on that she was sleeping with my friends. And I don't know if it was exactly the time that she was cool, dating me. We really didn't date that long, just a couple months. But I really had a crush on her. I really liked her, and I think she could tell. And then later on, a couple years later, she came back around, and I think we sort of actually I don't even think we dated after she came back around. We just slept together and messed around. So originally, like in ninth grade, I think it was, we dated for a couple months, and I really liked her, blah blah. And she had me in the friend zone, and she didn't. And then I think she broke up with me. And then later on, like I think a couple years later, I think I was like in 11th grade, almost 12th grade. I was hanging out with all my friends, and because I was in this cool friend group, and we all played basketball, and I was popular, she sort of slithered around, and then we had sex, and she was my first that I ever had sex with. And she was very good looking. She was a blonde, and she was like thick, like I like, and all that. You know, big boob and big thick ass, and that's what I like. Um, but I didn't realize it at the time. Oh, this girl will date me. She'll kiss me and blah blah blah. Um, but she didn't, because either she's young or she's just a certain way. She didn't want to love me. Okay, and then she'll, oh, I'm just not that interested in this guy, and then she moves on. But a couple years later, when I'm hanging out with my cool friend group, blah blah blah, we're playing this basketball tournament. We win the basketball tournament. It's all good. We're cool guys. She'll come and sit in the hot tub with me and make out or do whatever, and then I'll go in and I'll have sex with her, and then it's easy. So it's like it's the opposite of what you think it would be. We grow up being conditioned by all these movies that the good guy gets the girl and she loves him, and it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit, right? The bad guy gets the girl. The guy who's the most badass, or he's the coolest for whatever reason, he's a rogue guy, he gets the girl. She wants him because he doesn't give a fuck about her. She doesn't want love. She doesn't want to be treated right, blah, blah, blah. She wants the asshole. She wants to fuck the asshole. Now, a couple years later, after this happened, so we had sex, blah, blah, blah. Then, like a year or so later, I found out she was sleeping with a bunch of my other friends too. So not only did she hang out with me after we won the basketball tournament in the hot tub, we went in and we had sex. She was messing around having sex with my other friends. But I always liked her, and she could tell that I liked her. And because she could tell that I liked her, she didn't really want to mess around with me that much. I think we had sex like once or twice after that. Like she came over and gave me a blowjob and like different little things that she did. But she could always tell that I really liked her. I really had a crush on her. And because of that, she didn't really want to have anything to do with me, which should be the opposite. And I don't know, maybe I wasn't good looking enough, or maybe I don't know what, because I was doing pretty well at that time of my life in high school. I was on the basketball team. I seemingly had a bright future. I had jobs. I had good clothes. I don't think I quite had a car. I think I did kind of have a car off and on. So it's possible that she could have fallen for me, but she just didn't, because I didn't have. There's something that I was missing, some ingredient that I was missing, whether it was just not good looking enough, or whether it was maybe I just wasn't quite bad boy enough, or whether there's some ingredient, or maybe she just was a slut. Maybe she just wanted to slut around, and that could very well be possible, because later on, I think like 3 or 4 years later, maybe even 5 years later, after I was getting on social media, I was getting on Facebook. This was like 5 years after high school ended. I talked to some girl who was a friend of hers, and she ended up getting married. This girl, she ended up getting married, and I think she got pregnant. But I went on her social media, her Facebook, and I looked at the guy who she was getting married to, and he was like a beta looking guy, like weak. I was big and strong. I worked out. I played basketball, so I was like tall and like in shape. And this guy was like short, and he was a total beta. So she really did the quintessential thing where she went out and she had sex with a bunch of alphas. Like all the guys in my friend group, we were all tall, we were all in shape, we were all pretty good looking dudes. She fucked all my friends. She fucked me and all my friends, and then she went and married some beta. So she did that quintessential where she went out chasing alphas, and then she settled down for a beta. Why? Well, it wasn't until I entered mgtow until I could figure out why. The reason why was because she wanted a yes man. She wanted a guy who, she could control, and who would be her yes man, and he had a steady job or whatever, so that she could have kids with. And probably she's going to go out and she's going to chase assholes. She's going to chase alpha men behind his back, or do some things behind his back. There was when I was in my height of going out in my late 20s, I say, when I was in my height of going out and sleeping with random girls, messing around, being a bad boy, there was more than once where I went to a girl's house and she'd shared that house, and it was a family, and her kids were gone and her husband was gone. I don't know if they were on vacation or something. There's more than once, it happened a few times, where I didn't realize it at first. Later on, I thought about it, and I was like, oh shit, she cheated on her husband or her boyfriend or whoever with me, and she didn't tell me. So it happens. It happens. And they know they can get that. They know they can do that because guys will jump into bed so easily. So they have us hamstrung. They have us up against a wall in the fact that, socially, and when it comes to man-woman dynamics, they know they can get sex anytime they want. So they're going to manipulate it so that they can get a guy who will be steady enough to take care of them financially, and even also like sweet enough to, to where he's not going to be a asshole or whatever, and she can control him or manipulate him however, and then she goes out and sleeps with alphas behind his back. I've seen this happen. Okay. So there was that, and that was my first real experience with these type of girls. That was my first real sort of mgtow awakening, if you will, although I didn't realize that I was even going towards mgtow at that point, or at least the mgtow philosophy. I just thought, damn, that sucks. She broke my heart, and she did break my heart, because I did really want to love her, and I was ready to not necessarily quote unquote settle down, but I was ready to have a relationship. And it just never happened. And there was a few other girls like that too, where I wanted to have a relationship, I wanted to love them, and they just didn't want anything to do with me, and they would go chase assholes. And one could say, oh, it's because they're young, and not necessarily. They do that up until to the point where they can't do it anymore. They hit the wall, and some of them hit the wall at 25, some of them hit the wall at 30, some of them hit the wall at 35, some of them hit the wall and don't even settle down. They hit the wall and they keep going. They'll hit their physical wall, and girls don't, a lot of them aren't smart. They're not like, I mean, some of them are smart and they eat well, but a lot of them aren't smart. They don't eat well, they don't work out, they don't take care of themselves, they don't know how to maintain their physical beauty, and they'll hit road bumps. They'll hit walls as they go along, and they'll get less attractive, and yet as it really, guys will sleep with almost almost an ugly girl, just because we are just that way. Pussy is pussy to us. So, and even until they're 40, I've seen girls, even after they hit a couple walls, they'll still mess around. They'll still be out there chasing guys. I've seen women at bars who were even past their 40s and just ugly and still trying to play this game. And I saw this. I remember one time I was walking by this bar, and I saw this woman. She had to be 45, and she did not look good. And there was this young guy who was like trying to get some pussy from her, trying to get laid. I could tell. And the way she was talking to him, she was like, she was a cat and he was the mouse. And she had him under her control, and she knew it. And the whole even way that she had him under her control was he just was so desperate for pussy. He was going to sleep with this woman who was 45 and not even physically attractive. And maybe at one time she was. But he was just so, and it was like, gosh, I just felt like men need to have standards. We need to have better standards. So there's that, and they know that. They know that they have us. They know that they have us that way. They know that they have this power over us. And until we stop giving them that power, and it just starts with you. It starts with one person. One person stops giving them that power. And that's, I think, why a lot of them, they want to make fun of mgtow, and they want to throw dirt on the mgtow name, because ultimately that's what it means. It means less power for them. If men are walking away from them, it means that they have less power over men as a whole. Some, whether it's tens of thousands or 100,000 or a million, a couple million men are walking away from women. That's a threat to their dominance. And how do they dominate? They dominate because they know that they have something that we want. Sex. They have pussy. We want pussy. They know this. They know they have this over us. So if we walk away, or even if we just educate ourselves and to take the pussy off the pedestal, maybe we still try to date, or maybe we still try to get laid, whatever. But if we stop chasing, right? And that was honestly one of the best things that I ever did, was stop chasing. You chase, but you don't chase. You see, you show interest, you talk to them, you try to get them out on a date, or you try to get them out to hang out or whatever. I say in my no dates video, don't take women on dates. Don't ever spend money on women, but try to get them out, try to have sex with them, whatever. That's fine, but don't spend money on them. And there's been more than a few times where I took women out, and I think there's 3 different times, 3 solid at least different times, where I took women out and I didn't spend money on them. And because I didn't spend money on them, they didn't want anything to do with me. There was one time, I think, when I paid for a movie for a girl, but I'm pretty sure she was already into me, and we ended up going back to her place and having sex. Um, that was only because I think she wanted to have sex with me anyways. Like, she was really attracted to me, and I could tell. And so we went to a movie, and I paid for it, and it was okay. It cost me like $20, and it wasn't too bad. It wasn't like I was trying to buy her off. It was like kind of like, okay, I'll just pay for it. It's just a fun night, whatever. And we went back to her place and had sex. So that was really the only time I've ever paid for anything. And the honest truth is that you don't have to pay for anything. You don't have to take a woman out on a date and pay for anything. All the times that I've been laid in my 20s, I'm pretty sure that was the only time I've ever paid for anything. But there was, like I said, there's 3 or 4 different times when I did take girls out on dates and I didn't pay for anything purposely. And they wanted me to pay for things. They wanted me to take them to dinner. And I've had girls suggest, oh, let's go to dinner. And I was like, no, that's not really my thing. A few different times, and those girls really at the end of the day were just trying to use me. They thought I was weak. They thought that they could manipulate me, and it didn't work. And because it didn't work, they were like, oh, well, I'm gonna go find somebody who will pay for dinner. You know what I mean? So it's like, either way, if she wants to have sex with you, you don't have to pay for anything. If she doesn't want to have sex with you, if she just wants to use you, she's just going to go find somebody who she can use. So either way, it doesn't matter. So those guys who are on the fence, like, should I pay for something? Should I buy? Don't. Usually don't, unless you just have a feeling like, okay, I'll pay for the movie, or I'll pay for we're gonna go mini golfing, I'll pay for that, whatever, you know what I mean. But really, usually don't, because it says you're kind of weak if you do that, and these guys who are like, I'm a provider and it makes me feel like a man. Nah, you're just kind of like you're being what's the word, you're being anyway, you're enabling her. You're enabling that whole hypergamy. You're enabling, like, you're telling her subconsciously that she's the prize. You should be the prize, right? So, my last girlfriend. Let me try to close this up. This has been a long one. Let me try to close this up and really talk about my last girlfriend and why it matters. So, long story short, I dated around in my 20s when I stopped being... Okay, actually, here's what happened. When I went to church, there's a period of my life in my early to mid-20s when I was very much into church. And I wanted to get married. I wanted to do the right thing as far as, like, not go out and go to bars and have sex and things like that. I gave my life to God at a certain period of my life. And because of that, I wanted to get married. I've always had a strong sex drive, so I knew that, and I've always wanted love. I've always really wanted love, and it just never happened. But there was a period of my life in my early and mid 20s where I was really looking for a wife. I was looking for a wife in the church. Which, if you're going to find a wife, you're going to find a good girl. It's probably going to be in church, because they actually teach morals, and they actually have a foundation of moral, efficacy and moral practices and things like that. And marriage is a part of that. So love and marriage is very much encouraged in church. So if you're going to find a girl for love and marriage, it's probably going to be in church, you would think, right? So the problem was that when I went to church, I came up against hypergamy. I realized that girls didn't want to marry me because I didn't have that much money. I was broke. And they could tell that I was broken. They knew that I was broken. Even their fathers, their parents, encouraged them not to marry me, or even entertain the idea of me courting them, because I didn't have any money. I didn't have a career. I was going to school, and I wasn't really working. I was just going to school at that time, and I didn't have a career. Didn't have an obvious goal or something I was working towards. In other words, I couldn't buy a house, or I couldn't lease a house. I couldn't even lease an apartment at that time. So I didn't have any way to take care of a woman who particularly a woman who was going to be pregnant potentially, and they could sense that, and because of that, they stayed away from me. So what blew my mind was that even in church, women are hypergamous. Even in a situation where all the greed should be gone, all the manipulation should be gone. It should just be like, oh, you want to marry somebody because you love them. Even in that scenario, women were still very heartless, and they didn't want to love, and they were still like, how much money do you make? So I was like, okay, I get it. And I ended up, there's a period where I got mad because of that, and I got mad at God, and I left the church. And I just went on a tear. I went on a tear. I said, you know what? I have needs, physical needs. I want sex and I want love, but obviously love is attached to my pocketbook. Love is attached to my financial means. So I'm just going to go get sex and I'm going to go do it. I'm going to be a bad boy. And that's what I did for about, I'd say, about 6 years, 6, 7 years. I did that. And I went out and I slept with a lot of girls. I learned how to be a bad boy. I learned how to portray myself like I didn't give a fuck, and it worked. When I stopped trying to put women in this, like, I want to love you category and I want to treat you right category, and I started treating them like piece of meat, I started treating them like they were just sex objects. For some reason, they wanted me more. They liked me more. They wanted me more, and they would chase me. Okay. And I just learned how to be a gamer. I learned a little bit of game. I learned how to play hard to get. I learned how to act like I was a bad boy, and that turned them on. They wanted me, and I got sex a lot. I had girls chasing me. I dated about 3 or 4 solid girls for about a year. I was dating them, and I was sleeping with other girls behind their back, and it was like I was just on a tear. Um, and there was never a point where I was like, girls don't benefit from double standards. Girls don't have this huge advantage over guys. There was never that point. In fact, it just all throughout all my experiences, it just solidified that. It just continuously, consistently, again and again and again, solidified the fact that women have the upper hand in society from gynocentrism. Women can get sex anytime they want. They know that, which is why when you stop chasing them and you start to figure out a way to be a bad boy, figure out a way to get them to chase you, then you've got them around your finger. Anytime, and this is what I tell all my friends who are trying to get laid or trying to game. This is what I tell guys online who are trying to get laid, trying to game. Anytime you're chasing them, you become the buyer and they become the seller. And when you're in that frame with a girl, you're the buyer and she's a seller, she's not interested in you because it means you're chasing her. It means you're below her. If you can figure out a way to make her the buyer and you're the seller, then you will get her. You have a way better chance of getting laid. And this is what I learned, and this is what I figured out. After even just after a few short years of really quote unquote being in the dating game. Of course, it was online dating. Now I'm trying to implement in-person game, and it's a lot harder. I'm trying to raise my standards a bit. During that time, I would just, if she was remotely attractive, I would, I would definitely have sex with her. And that's the thing that's like, like now I kind of want higher standards. I want better quality girls, things like that. Not to say I just slept with a bunch of uggos. I mean, they were okay. The girls that I messed around with, they weren't terrible. They weren't all fat, ugly. I had a few bad experiences where I was like, oh man, I should not have done that. Or like, oh gosh, I shouldn't even have chased that girl. She's so ugly. There was a few like that, but a lot of them were okay, right? So finally met my last girlfriend, who I'm going to finish this up with. And I was actually coming off a bad breakup. So like I said, during this period, I had about 3 solid girlfriends. All 3 of them were bad breakups. The first one, I cheated on her. This girl gave me a hickey, and I went and I stupidly, just really, really stupidly, had the hickey on my neck, and the other girl saw it, and she freaked out and got all bitter and went out and met some other guy, and so that didn't work out. And it was these were bad breakups. Like I had sort of fell in love with these girls in a certain way, just by spending a lot of time with them, and the sex was amazing. It was always amazing with these particular girls. And what I learned was when you spend a lot of time with girls, when you are very intimate, you sleep with them, like not just have sex, but you actually sleep with them in the same bed, and you hug and you kiss and things like that. You get affectionate, and it sort of, she becomes attached to you. And when you break up, this is what I learned, is that women can easily break up with a guy and just forget about it and move on. To them, it's like, oh, yep, that was just my ex-boyfriend. He's just another guy. He's just another number to them, right? And the reason why they think that is because they can jump from guy to guy, and they know this. So to them, it's like a business. To them, it's like cars. Like, oh yeah, I had this Honda, now I drive a Ford. You know what I mean? It's like, it's that
it's that it lacks that kind of affection. It's that just brunt. Like, yeah, now, yeah, I used to drive a Honda, now I drive a Ford. You know what I mean? Like, oh, that's my ex boyfriend. I've had girls say that have broken up with me say that, oh, you're just one of my ex boyfriends. So it's like you're just another number to them, right? To you, they're a name, they're a person with a bunch of experiences behind it. You remember being intimate with them. To them, you're just this person. Like, you're just erased out of their memory. You're just this person that they messed around with at one point, and now they've moved on. Now they're focused, and like that's how their emotions work. And people think like, oh, women are so emotional, women are so deep. Actually, no. Women maybe are emotional as far as like getting turned on and like being attached to a guy, but when it comes to breaking up with a guy, no, it's easy. They just move on. They're done. And the reason why I keep saying this, and the reason why is because they have options. Because to them, it's like going to the store. You go to the store and you buy a loaf of bread, and you're like, oh, I choose this loaf of bread. This is a good loaf of bread. You come home and you taste it, and you're like, you know what? I don't like this loaf of bread. I'm going to toss it out. I'm going to go get a different loaf of bread. This is how they view relationships. It's just like that. It's that. It's without affection, just like that. So finally met my last girlfriend, my ex-girlfriend, and we spent a lot of time together being intimate. I got to know her. I got to hang out with her and all these things. And finally, she moved on, and she tried to say it was all about she tried to say that it was all about sex and that she wanted love and things like that. And she made me out to be the bad guy, and they'll do that. They'll make you out to be the bad guy. And that was during the time that I was with her. She even cheated on me and all these things, and so I knew that mgtow was legit. Finally, and that was a few years ago, like about 2014. So I finally fully woke up, out of the matrix. And instead of just like, oh, and because I used to think all women were this and that, and like now I realize, yeah, it's true, but it's backed up by there's other people out there who are feeling the same way that I am, and it's backed up by all these other guys, and all these other guys are going through the same experiences that I'm going through. So it's a shared experience. It's real. Okay. The only difference is that I haven't fully walked away. The only difference between me and a mgtow monk, a full-on red pill, is that I haven't walked away. And actually, somebody said the other day on one of my videos, he said, you can be full red pill and not fully walk away from girls. So I agree with that. I'm like, wow, I'm really thankful. I'm thankful that I met mgtow guys. I'm thankful that I've been fully exposed to the mgtow philosophy, because it really helped me and showed me that I'm normal. Like, I'm okay. Like, I'm not the problem. These women are the problem. Society is the problem that coddles these women and lets them get away with the things that they do. So one of the major things that I've learned throughout all this experience is that women have the upper hand, and we are at a disadvantage. And the only way we'll even be able to compete with that, or to sort of get at least some advantage back, is by equipping ourselves with knowledge, and by implementing some of that knowledge, and just teaching other men, and to a certain extent, people have to be accepting. People have to understand what we're talking about, and we have to prove what we're talking about, categorically and experientially, consistently. And guys who've been through it get it. Guys who've been through it get it. And being bitter doesn't help, because if we're bitter, we can't articulate ourselves. We can't really explain our stance. That doesn't really help. What helps is that, we can share experiences that other guys relate with and say, yeah, that's probably true. Yeah. So really the only thing that's going to, if we're ever going to hope to change this, I mean, we're not going to change female nature, right? That's not going to happen. But what we can do is we can change the way society reacts to females. We can change the way men react to females, and we can change, potentially, we can change the hubris, I think that's the right word, hubris behind how men and women interact, the dynamic. We can change that dynamic through basic education, through basic information sharing, knowledge, the relay of knowledge and things like that, which we're already doing. But I will say one thing is that the hate and the anger, that doesn't help our cause. It hurts our cause, because if we come across as bitter, if we come across as vitriolic, things like that, And I understand it. There's a lot of guys who just fresh off getting broken up with. Guys are just fresh off a divorce and they're still bitter. And it makes sense. If she takes half your stuff, she didn't even work for it. The courts gave it to her. You're going to be bitter. And I get that. I understand that. But again, if we're going to change anything, if we're going to have any impact socially, we can't come across like we're just, hating women, like we're just women haters. Can't do that because it's going to come across like that. It's going to look like we're just bitter men, etc. The only way to win is to share factual statistics, real information, to learn a little bit of, political speak, be a little political in that, we're not singling out necessarily a whole group of people. We're just saying this is how a lot of women behave. You got to use these kind of words. You got to say a lot. You can't say all because it offends some people. And I know, I understand. Oh, let them be offended. I know we're mad. We get mad. I've been through that phase where I was just hating and mad, but it ultimately doesn't help. What helps is if you be a little political, you be a little democratic, and you kind of be careful with your words and you word it a certain way. Like when I talk about MGTOW, I sort of give an explanation. I say, well, a lot of these guys are coming off of bad relationships. They have women who cheated on them. They have women who took them to court, and the court system favored them because they're women. And the men just basically got robbed. I mean, Johnny Depp is a good example, recently of that. Amber Heard girl, there was no proof that he really beat her up, and she could have just bruised herself. And I think she got crazy amount of money from him. So, these things happen, and these things are happening still. And I think we're going through a huge shift, particularly with Donald Trump coming in and things like that. We're going through a huge shift socially and with information and with the quote unquote truth. So I believe people are, again, statistics don't lie usually. So if women are backing away from feminism, then the truth is going out there. People like Milo Yiannopoulos, they're on our side. They're speaking the truth against feminism, speaking the truth against these double standards in society, things like that. Gavin McInnes, etc. These guys are on our side, and the truth is being shared. Okay, so take heart. You know what I mean? And just keep doing what you're doing. Keep sharing the truthful information, and try not to do it in a bitter way. Try not to create MGTOW like it's some inclusive, exclusive club. Full of exclusivity and kind of primitive, a narco-primitive behavior where like cavemen type behavior, you're not a full red pill, get out of here, all this stuff that turned me off to it so early on, and focus more on the information aspect where you're sharing good information. We're sharing our experiences like I've done today, and we're talking about female nature and how in society these things play out and why it's important and how men are being thrown under the bus. All right, so let's do that, and I think we'll do a lot better. Thanks for listening. Jason Lee, Northwest Podcast.